There's like all these other pictures I could have had up here, you know, like this one, that, Chuck Jones stuff here. When he was going through his ugly 80s phase, and the 80s phase was really ugly, and piggy bank robbery. I haven't had a reason to put any of these up. Well, I've had reason. Haven't had the time so much. Why? Because this is still technically season 2. I mean, my goodness, guys, you're catching me off guard. It's been a long day, but at least I have the weekend and a nice glass of wine. And now it's time for your daily dose of What's Up, Dockery, Riding the Shield. Well, here we are, boys. It's Hare Ribbin, and what is a ribbon but that for a thing which is hair? I don't know where I'm going with this transatlantic thing. So we've all seen the cartoon Hare Ribbin, one of my favorite cartoons by one of my favorite directors of the classic cartoons of all time, that of course being Bob Clampett. It's something that I have to remind myself often, is that cartoon is underwater for the majority of the time. The majority of the action takes place underwater. And sometimes I wonder if Clampett, being the industrious and experimental young director that he was, realizing that he could do this effect, this underwater effect, with having the droplets on the platen glass and going across one frame at a time to achieve that kind of underwater look. I wonder if that was, he realized that he could do that effect, and so he would have reason to have an underwater cartoon. But it's either way, it's a great cartoon, using that wonderful dog that I love so much. We talked about him, actually, Thad Komorowski and myself talked about the new Looney Tunes cartoon Bonehead that features this dog. It's done very well, I will say, as we have said, as Thad and I have said, it's done very well, and it pays tribute to that character very well. However, we are not talking about that. We are talking about Hare Ribbin. And I mentioned earlier the week, I was talking about Red Hot Rider and that video I did, initial video, Red Hot Rider is a Free Baller, was the name of that video. And I talked about how he was, sometimes Clampett would go a little too extreme, and they would, Schlesinger would reanimate stuff, and they would have the budget for that. Eddie Seltzer apparently didn't believe in that. So, but Seltzer actually was at Warner's at the time that Buckaroo Bugs was in production. Eddie Seltzer and Clampett very, very briefly existed in each other's worlds. In fact, Buckaroo Bugs is the last cartoon to have the name Leon Schlesinger on any of the cartoons at all. But Hare Ribbin, once again, is one of these cartoons that, like the ones mentioned before, there's stuff that goes apparently a little bit too extreme. So the last joke, it's that classic thing of Bugs playing to his villain's sympathies and making them think that they've killed the poor little wabbit. So here's the original. The dog saying, "I don't deserve to live," and Bugs says, "Do you mean it?" and then offers him the gun, and he takes it and shoots him and blows his own brains out. And then of course there's this one, which is what was originally animated, and you can see that, it cuts into the close-up and then cuts back to the original. We see the dog, I don't deserve to live. Bugs says, do you mean it? And then he puts the gun in his mouth and does it and kills him, and then he falls down. And I honestly, some say that's dark. It's darker. It's specifically, some people would say it's darker because Bugs puts the gun into the dog's mouth. And yeah, I agree. That's pretty fucked up, even for the 40s. But in fact, that's what the whole thing with Elmer and Yosemite Sam and the guns thing. That was one of the big things that they were trying to avoid happening on TV, is that the guns should never be aimed at the other characters directly. And there was an addendum to the whole thing about having to make sure that there's no shots where the guns go in other characters' mouths, because it was a thing at one time. Indeed, as it was here in Hare Ribbin, but it got removed. But here's my thing. In terms of darkness, in terms of being fucked up, I posit to you, Bugs making him feel so bad that he takes his own life, and Bugs not only gets him to that point, but when he's there, springs back to life and offers the guy the gun, and he still takes it, not noticing that Bugs is clearly not dead. He's still just so distraught that he takes it and blows his own brains out. Maybe I'm a sissy. I'm not a sissy, but maybe I'm a weak guy. Maybe I'm whatever, but I think that's a lot darker. I think it's a lot darker to bring a character to this really fucked up place, and like in South Park where Cartman kills Scott Tenorman's parents. I mean, and then Scott Tenorman was torturing and bullying Cartman all throughout this episode, and to take ultimate revenge, and that's the punchline at the end, which is that the other kids are watching Cartman and they're watching this happen, and the kid's crying when he realizes that, spoilers, kids cry, that Scott Tenorman starts crying when he realizes that he's eating this chili that Cartman made him that has his parents' body in it and pieces in it, and he's eating them, and he starts crying, and Cartman walks up and starts licking his tears, and the kids just look at him and goes, dude, let's agree to never fuck with Cartman ever again. So, I mean, Cartman clearly has no problem taking someone's life in that joke, but he could have just as easily killed Scott Tenorman. But it's darker that he killed Scott Tenorman's parents and then made him eat the chili and all this other stuff. And I'm just saying, if you're cutting it out, I mean, it's 1940s judgment versus, the supposed modern sophistication. But I think hindsight being supposedly 2020, I think it's a little bit darker and more fucked up as an ending goes for the whole gag. I agree that it's fucked up for Bugs to go, do you mean it? And then put the gun straight in his mouth and kill the guy. He's not really dead, but to do all that stuff. Than it is for Bugs to drive the dog to suicide and then give him the means to kill himself. I think that's darker. I think that's a lot darker. And I stand by that. And that is what I'm leaving you with on the weekend. So think about that on the weekend. That's where I took you to a dark place, but hey, at least it's over. And if you're not turned off by that darkness, then be sure to subscribe. And I will see you on Monday, Docs and Docettes. Until next time, Bob's your uncle. I don't know.